Hi everyone, this is Mrs. J, and today we're going to learn how to solve absolute value equations. Alright, so before we start, I have a quick warm-up for you. See if you can read the directions and figure out how to solve this equation. And when you're ready, hit play to check your answer. Okay, so you can see here that we were able to solve this equation by graphing and actually saying, okay, let's graph the left side, let's graph the right side, and see where they're equal. So you can graph this, it's graphed in blue here. So remember, this is an absolute value function that has a vertex at 5, -4. So right here, and then you can follow that slope of 2 going to the right, and reflect it going to the left. And then y equals 2 is simply a horizontal line at y equals 2. And then wherever they are equal will be your answers for the x values. So we can see here they're equal when x is 2 and when x is 8. So we actually just solved an absolute value equation by graphing, but today we're really going to focus on how to solve it algebraically. So here's the steps for how to solve an absolute value equation algebraically. So first, you're going to do everything you can to isolate the absolute value expression. So anything that's outside of your absolute value needs to be moved to the other side of your equation. Then you're going to rewrite your single equation as two separate equations, one for the positive version of the absolute value and one for the negative, and then you solve for x for each equation separately. So let's give this first one a try together. So remember, our first step always needs to be to isolate the absolute value. So we can do this in one simple step, simply by subtracting 2 from each side, leaving us with the absolute value of 3x equals 6. So now that we've done that, we're actually going to turn this into two different equations. So we know that absolute values really have a positive and a negative version. So one version will be 3x is equal to positive 6, and then we'll have 3x is equal to negative 6. And notice once we make the two separate equations, we no longer need our absolute value signs. And then from here, we just finish solving for x. So divide by 3. One of our answers is x equals 2. Here, same step. So our other answer is x equals -2. And there you have it. All right, let's try another one together. So again, step 1 is to isolate the absolute value first. So this is going to require 2 steps. So we'll start by adding 2 to each side. So 3 times the absolute value of 4x minus 5 equals 21. Then let's divide both sides by 3. So the absolute value of 4x minus 5 equals 7. And now that it's isolated, we can create our two separate equations, one for the positive version, so equals positive 7, and then one for the negative version, equals -7. And notice that we were able to lose our absolute value signs when we do this. And now all we have to do is finish solving. So here we'll add 5. So 4x equals 12. Divide by 4. So one of our answers is going to be x equals 3. And then on the other side, add 5. So 4x equals -2. And divide by 4. So x equals -1/2 when you simplify. So notice your answers won't always be the same values, just a positive, negative. So you do need to make sure that you're fully solving each side of your equation. All right, so at this point, please pause the video, give this one a try on your own, and when you're ready to check your answers, hit play. All right, so go ahead and check your answers here. So again, isolate absolute value of x plus 2, and then you can create your two separate equations, one for positive and one for negative, and then just finish solving. So you should get x equals 18 and negative 22. Okay, let's try another one together. So here, let's isolate first again. So we can start by subtracting 2 from each side. So we get negative 5 times the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 10. And then from here we can divide both sides by negative 5. And we get the absolute value of x plus 1 equals negative 2. Now before we go into autopilot and just simply start making our two equations, we have to do a little bit of critical thinking. So we know that the result of an absolute value, anything, should always be positive, right? The absolute value of a positive number is positive. The absolute value of a negative number is positive. So there's actually no possible way for the absolute value of x plus 1 to equal this negative 2. So if you ever get down to the isolation step and you notice that the other side of your equation is negative, this is actually not possible. And we actually have a case where we have no solution. So this is definitely something to look out for. So you can't always just go straight into autopilot. So remember, the result of an absolute value will always be positive. So this has no solution. Okay, let's try another one together. So here, let's start isolating our absolute value right here. So let's start by adding 3 to both sides. So we have 3 over 5 times the absolute value of 2x minus 4 equals 0. It's okay for it to be 0. To clear 3 over 5, let's multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which would be 5 over 3. So this just leaves us with the absolute value of 2x minus 4 equals 0. So it is okay for an absolute value to equal 0. And for here, we can actually simply eliminate the absolute value sign and finish solving. So plus 4, so 2x equals 4. And in one more step, we have finished solving for x. So here's a case where we actually only have one solution. Usually we get two solutions, but again, sometimes you'll end up with only one solution, and sometimes, like the previous example, you might even end up with no solution. So you do need to be careful. All right, here is the last example for today's video. Go ahead and pause the video, try it on your own, and we'll check your answer in just a few moments. All right, so go ahead and check. So here again, in your process of isolating the absolute value, we end up with absolute value of 1/2 x plus 5 equals negative 1. And remember, the result of an absolute value expression must always be positive. So this is actually a case where your answer does not exist, so it's no solution. All right, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.